Hello everyone, my name is Brian, but you can call me the Bugler, and today we're going to be covering the Nightstalker Hunter subclass Way of the Trapper skill tree. First up, we have the melee ability, Snare Bomb. This allows you to throw a smoke bomb which will stick to surfaces and detonate when enemies are in proximity. Enemies caught in the explosion will be slowed and disoriented. After that, we have Keen Scout, which increases your sprint and sneak speed. You also gain an enhanced tracker and the ability to track enemies that are tethered. And then we have the super modifier, which is called Deadfall. It changes your shadow shot to fire anchors that become traps which wait for enemies. The anchors will also have an increased range and last longer. Finally, we have Vanishing Step, which makes your dodge class ability turn you invisible. Let's talk about the melee ability first. Snare Bomb can be thrown on any surface and it will stick. At that point, it will last for 10 seconds or 5 ticks and explode on the 6th. If an enemy enters its proximity early, it will trigger the explosion and disorient those enemies. Snare Bomb can also cause a small amount of damage, although it's insignificant when compared to a regular melee attack. Let's look at the Snare Bomb's ability to disorient your enemies. Any enemy that gets caught in the smoke will be disoriented for 6 seconds. However, enemies will treat the Snare Bomb as if it is a grenade, meaning they will try to avoid the smoke, and also, when a Snare Bomb is thrown near them, they will duck for cover, effectively increasing the duration of this stun. The proximity detonation of the Snare Bomb is a little bit larger than the visual representation implies. Any enemy caught within the smoke will also receive 6 seconds of stun, no matter how close they are to the center. So damage falloff does not change how long enemies are stunned. It's also important to note that the Snare Bomb, since it is a melee ability, deals elemental damage, more specifically Void. So it will deal extra damage to shields, even though that damage is still insignificant. Let's talk about Keen Scout next. More specifically, its ability to increase your sprint and sneak speed. I'm going to split the screen in a second. On the top, you'll see without Keen Scout. On the bottom will be with. On the left will be sprinting, and on the right will be sneaking. You can see that the sprint increase we gain is fairly insignificant. Meanwhile, the sneak increase is very noticeable. I did all of this testing with 6 mobility, which is what I consider to be the sweet spot for mobility diminishing returns. This is the point that most hunters will be at, considering almost all of his gear offers mobility. I wish sprint speed got more love, but at least the sneak speed is very noticeable. Keen Scout also grants you an enhanced tracker. What this does is change your 8 cardinal direction tracker to a 12 more clock-like directional tracker. It also allows you to see planetary materials and chests on your tracker. However, it does not increase the range, which, for those of you who are uninitiated, is 25 meters. You can test this yourself at home, like a do-it-at-home science experiment, if you have the Darcy Exotic Sniper Rifle, which shows you the distance between you and enemies when aimed down the sights. The final thing that Keen Scout grants you is the ability to track enemies that have been hit by your tether. This allows you to track them through walls and around corners for 30 seconds. In this footage, I sped it up to 300% speed. So the timer is moving at normal speed. When it hits 10 seconds, we know that 30 seconds in normal 100% speed has passed. Now, this doesn't have the most utility, but I do appreciate the addition. Let's look at the third skill, Deadfall. This super modifier changes how Shadow Shot behaves to fire a void anchor that will wait for enemies to enter its range. It also increases the range of your tethers and their duration. Let's take a look at that first. When you fire Shadow Shot with Deadfall and no enemies are near, you create a void anchor that lasts for 30 seconds or for 15 pulses. Any enemy that enters its range, which can be represented by the pulsing animation, triggers the tethers to spawn after a brief delay. This delay is present on every version of Shadow Shot, so be mindful that when you fire this super, your enemies will not be tethered and suppressed immediately upon being hit. The anchor that can tether enemies lasts for 8 seconds with Deadfall, as opposed to the 5 seconds that a normal shadow shot would last for. This duration, however, can increase depending on how many enemies you tether. We're going to take a look at that property now. In this example, thanks to Deadfall, I'm able to fire Shadow Shot and create a trap for when the enemies spawn. Now, from when the first enemy gets tethered, our timer is going to start. It should last for 8 seconds if we go by what the duration is without enemies. However, as long as new enemies continue to enter the range of the tether, we can increase the duration of the tether almost indefinitely. I've been unable to reach a hard cap with this for the normal version of the tether and the Deadfall version of the tether. However, in both cases, it seems like 5 orbs is still the limit, even though this tether lasted for 25.5 seconds. The range increase granted by Deadfall also appears to be significant. I would estimate that it's somewhere around 1.5 times the base range of the tether. Let's move on to the final skill. It is called Vanishing Step, and it allows you to become invisible when you use the Hunter's class ability, which is a dodge. And this dodge has the same cooldown regardless of the version you use, which is about 25 seconds from as soon as you initiate it. So you'll be able to go invisible about every 25 seconds. As soon as you turn invisible, you are that way for 3.5 seconds. However, you're only in control of your character for about 3 of those seconds. Also keep in mind that this duration is half of what the Way of the Pathfinder can offer when it comes to invisibility, and this only applies to yourself. And that's the end of our breakdown. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about how I conducted the tests, or why I may or may not have included certain footage, let me know in the comments so I could answer your questions. In my next videos, I'm going to be doing the grenade and super comparison for the Nightstalker Hunter and the Voidwalker Warlock. You can expect those videos over the next few days. So once again, thanks for watching, I hope I see you next time, and good luck getting through the exclusion zone.